All right, guys, welcome to today's video. So yesterday, you probably hear the rooster back over here. I'm sitting on my cottage today. I'm changing up the scenery for you. I'm actually killing two birds with one stone today. I'm filming in the same place for two different YouTube channels, so just bear with it. But anyway, guys, I'm out here in my cottage on the beach. If you can see back over my shoulders, the ocean there. I know you're jealous. Anyway, we're going to talk today about more about this wealth inequality issue. But where this story is coming from is one of my good friends back in the United States. He texted me yesterday, and he had a video clip of Donald Trump's latest, one of his latest press conferences, where he talked about a few different things. Number one, he was talking about the deal he's making with China. Also talking about the prescription drug thing. He had RFK Jr. there with him, and he was talking about the big airplane that I guess Qatar is going to gift him. And we're going to talk a little bit about a lot of this stuff. But anyway, my friend asked me, he goes, do you think this is the beginning of the pendulum swinging back the other way as far as the wealth inequality? And unfortunately, I had to explain to my friend, this is kind of the explanation, the long form explanation, but I explained to him, no, I don't think it's the pendulum swinging back. Are some of these things that Trump is doing going to be better? Are they good or whatever? We'll talk about some of this stuff. But is the problem of wealth inequality being addressed? I don't think so, not yet. And we'll talk a little bit more about that also. And so let's talk about this trade talks, because they have not come to any kind of an agreement with China yet. The only kind of agreement that they have come to is we went from 145% tariff down to like 30% tariff, I think is what it was. And China went from an 85% tariff down to like a 10% tariff. So that's a start in the right direction as far as the trade war goes. But you got to keep in mind, Trump started this trade war. There was not a trade war until Trump decided to start doing blanket tariffs and started trying to hammer down on China. So that's what you got to look at, is he's trying to rectify something that he started here. And so is it a good thing? Is it a step in the right direction as far as ending the trade war? Yes, I think it is. And I'm glad to see it. Hopefully we'll start seeing, we're already seeing some improvement in the stock market, but we also need to start seeing the improvement in the bond market, because that's what really affects me and other people living abroad, because that directly affects the dollar, how the dollar compares to other currencies. And right now, over the last 100 days, since Trump took office, we've been seeing a steady decline in the value of the dollar against the Philippine peso, a third world country, right? So it'd be nice to see that level out and then start going back up again like it was. So yeah, is that a good thing? It is. And would it be nice if we could see some things written in stone here? We could see some agreements signed? Yes, it would. Something permanent. We definitely need to see those things. Now let's talk about the prescription drug thing that he was talking about. Now there's a lot of details in that whole thing, and I haven't pulled up the executive order. I haven't looked any of those things up and read them for myself. I'm just going basically off of the press conference that Trump did. And it was very, very unclear about what he is doing here. it sounds like he is trying to lower the price of prescription drugs for Americans, and that's always a good thing. I'm not going to disagree with that. Now, he had already reversed some things that Biden had in place, and just because Biden put them in place, and now he is trying to put his own thing in place. It doesn't matter to me as long as it works. Now, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, and I may very well be wrong on this. I'm going to say I'm 100% because as of the filming of this video, more information may be coming out on what his plan is and what this executive order entails. But it sounds to me like he is telling Big Pharma that, hey, we're not going to pay any more than what Europe and the rest of the world is paying for American-made prescription drugs. We're not going to do it. And so they're going to have to figure something out. My best guess is this, and it is my best guess, so take it with a grain of salt, is that Big Pharma is not going to take a cut in profits. Not going to happen. They're not going to. They've been enjoying these humongous profits for way too long, and they're going to keep their profits. So what they're going to end up doing is bringing up the price of European drugs and everything else. They're going to start raising the price on foreign countries' drugs to start bringing down the price of America, the cost of prescription drugs to Americans. And I think they're going to meet somewhere in the middle. So could it cause lower prices for Americans? Yes. Is it going to be tremendously low prices for Americans? I don't think so. I think what's going to end up happening is the prices are going to rise for everybody else, and they're going to come down a little bit for us, and they're going to meet somewhere in the middle there. But is a lower price for Americans on prescription drugs better? Yes. It doesn't matter if it's $2 lower. It's always good. It's $2 that we've saved. So, yeah. You've got to take the good with the bad, right? And I don't know how this is going to play out, but, hey, I'm glad it's happening. I'm glad to see it. I think more needs to be done. And I think there's going to be some other factors that are in play because we have too many bureaucracies and too many hands in the pot between Big Pharma and the pharmacies, with the way these things work. You've got insurance companies, you've got doctors, you've got hospital corporations, you've got all these big entities that are trying to get their hands in the pot of these prescription drug prices, and they have some sort of control over that. So you have too many middlemen. And so they're going to have to figure these things out. And how they figure those things out is beyond my expertise. But I just think that there's a lot more at play here, and we're just going to have to wait and see. But if it does bring down prices, hey, I'm all for it. Now, is this going to be the thing that starts the pendulum coming back the other way on the wealth inequality issue? No, it's not. We've still got too many other things going on in our economy right now. The tariffs and the things that's gone on has already driven the economy to almost a halt. And we've got companies out there that are trying to figure out what they're going to do. Some of them have already laid off a lot of people. Some companies, like some auto manufacturers, have hey, are we going to continue on with building these EV plants in the South, or are we putting a stop to this? They're kind of in limbo land. Is Volvo still going to move Mack trucks down to Mexico? Is John Deere still going to move manufacturing down to Mexico? Because these are all things that have taken place over the last 100 days. There's a lot of things. So I don't know. I don't know. We're still in this limbo land with the tariffs. We got to see what Trump is going to do and how bad he's going to blink, or how bad he's going to renege, how bad he's going to crawdad, however you want to put it. But the bottom line is what we are not seeing is Donald Trump addressing anything about wealth inequality. None of them are doing it. Right now, we're seeing some things going on with the oil and gas industry. You know, Trump, it's well known that he's embedded good with OPEC, and now he just got a $400 million plane from one of the OPEC nations, right? There's some different theories out there of why Qatar is giving this $400 million plane. There's got to be some tit for tat on this deal, right? People don't just give away $400 million, even the royal family, for nothing. I've heard anything from they don't want Trump to impose sanctions on Qatar for delivering natural gas to China. And could it also be that it's Qatar's thankfulness for increasing production with OPEC so that they drive American producers out of the business? Because that's what's about to happen if this increase in OPEC production drives the price per barrel of oil below the break-even point. It's somewhere in the 50s in the Permian Basin, right? And oil producers say we can't even afford to operate at that price. We're going to have to shut. They're already shutting rigs down over here in the United States. So what does that mean in the long term? Well, it means that American producers are going to stop producing, and OPEC is going to keep producing. And yeah, you guys are going to enjoy some cheap gas, but now we're going to be dependent upon OPEC again. See, over the past several years, we've been able to get rid of our dependence so much on OPEC. We have increased production. You know, American producers have increased production, and it's been a good thing. It's been a good thing for putting Americans to work. Now, a lot of these oil companies are going to have to start laying people off. If they cannot produce, then they're going to have to start laying people off, and we're already seeing rig counts diminish. If you want some more detail on this, go look up Mr. Global. He's an Okie like me, and he's actually an oil and gas expert. And a lot of what I am talking about right here is some of what he is talking about. So yeah. And now we've got Saudi Arabia, but investing in some more refining capabilities here in the United States. So that's going to help gas prices go down. But what are we doing? We are letting OPEC into our system again, into our network, and they're going to end up gaining more of the market share of American oil and gas. So yeah, are we becoming dependent upon them? It's a possibility. And are we putting Americans out of jobs? Yes, that's definitely going to happen. If our guys ain't out there working, we're putting them out of jobs, right? Now, can they move on to different fields within the industry? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. So, are we seeing the pendulum swing back the other way with Trump policies? I don't think so. Oh, by the way, on that airplane note. So, if you don't know, I was a police officer for 20 years. I'm retired. If we were gifted anything over $25, it had to be turned into the department. There had to be a report made about it, and it kind of went into this fund, I guess, for all the officers. And the reason it was done like this is so not one officer could be corrupted, right? That was a policy. And this happened to me one time. I had gone out on a call, and it was just a simple report call. And it was actually some Middle Eastern folks. And they called me back over to their house the next day. And when I got there, the gentleman, he tried to give me this, envelope full of cash. It was way over the $25 minimum that we were allowed to accept, right? And this was not a tit for tat thing. He was not wanting anything in return. It was him being thankful for the service that I had already given him, I guess. I was just doing my job. But it was him thanking me for doing a job and treating him as a human being, I guess. I don't know. I told him, I said, look, I can't take this. It's against the law for me to do that. And I said, what you can do is go up to the police department and you can talk to one of the supervisors up there and talk to them about donating it to the entirety of the police department. And that's what he ended up doing. So why do they do this on the police department? Well, it's to avoid corruption. It's to keep anybody from being corrupted. And there are strict policies that are strictly enforced within the department on things like that. Is it 100% fail-proof? No, it's not. Are there some bad actors out there in the police department? Yes. But it is against the law. Matter of fact, if I pulled somebody over on a traffic stop and say it was some guy that owned a restaurant and he wanted to give me a $5 gift card, not to write him a ticket and give him a warning instead, now that is a tit for tat bribe. And it is a felony crime in the state of Oklahoma for me to accept that $5 gift card under those circumstances. And it is also a felony crime for him to offer it. Felony crime. Now, why are we not holding our politicians to the same standard? To keep the corruption away. See, there's your big problem, is we are not holding our political leaders accountable for corruption. And this kind of stuff goes on. As a matter of fact, we've even made it to where it's not even illegal. We need to start passing these laws that make it illegal again. And we need to have those laws enforced. But anyway, guys, that's a topic for another video. Now, is the pendulum swinging back the other way? I think not. And the reason why is we're not seeing any policies being made that is increasing wages for the working class Americans. We're not seeing anything being put into place where infrastructure is being bettered, where money is going back into the government for projects to where infrastructure, highways are being done, bridges. I mean, look at the state of Oklahoma alone. How many bridges are deemed unsafe already? Where's the money? Why aren't we using our tax money to correct these problems? Instead, I think I just heard recently there's an Oklahoma Doge now going in there and refusing federal money for some of these projects. It's just craziness. But these are infrastructure projects that everybody uses and benefits from, even our big corporations. But we're not seeing any of this stuff going back. Wages can be increased one of two ways. Either businesses and corporations can do it by the goodness of their own heart, or it can be legislated into it. Back in the day, back in the 60s and the 50s, 60s, and 70s, companies wanted to be a good place, like they would pride themselves on being a good place to work for. A place where you could go to work for them and you had a career. But it was a part of pride. Now, their pride lies in increasing their stock prices and increasing money for their investors. And I get it, that's part of capitalism. But whatever happened to this pride in being a good place to work, being a good ethical business that does business in an ethical manner, who doesn't try to cheat the system and pollute the rivers and do all these nasty things that businesses want to be deregulated from, right? We're not seeing any of this happen. We're not seeing it with the Biden administration. We haven't seen any of this happen for the last 45 years. And that's why I keep saying this whole system of things and the way American companies do business, and that all goes all the way down to the way they treat their employees and the wages they pay employees and the wage stagnation that we're seeing. And all these things has been taking place for the last 45 years. And so is the pendulum, could it swing back the other way today? Yeah, if we had the right leaders that were addressing these things that I just talked about. But we're not seeing that. All we're seeing is more transfer of wealth up. And it happened under Biden. It's happened under all of these presidents. From Reagan on up, all we've seen is this ability to transfer wealth up to the richest Americans. And that's all we're seeing. And we're just seeing more of it. It's just being labeled and advertised a different way. And that's what Donald Trump is famous for. You know, for his brand and for being able to be like this, right? For advertising. He's famous for that. He's bankrupted his businesses a few times, but he's always come out of it because of his brand. He's really good at that. In other words, he's good at selling the American public on things. He's good at selling bankers on things, and he's good at hobnobbing with the rich. And so, are we seeing any differences? No, we're just seeing it being sold to us poor and working class Americans in a different way. And so that's why I believe the pendulum is not swinging back the other direction. Matter of fact, it's swinging faster the other way, where the rich just keep getting richer and the poor just keep getting poorer. Now, are we starting to see the average American starting to see through the smoke show? I believe so. We're starting to see more and more Americans think about unionization, even try it. We're starting to see more and more Americans protest these things, going out and demonstrating. I'm starting to see more and more Americans talking about these things on social media, the wealth inequality issue. So I think a lot of Americans are starting to see through the smoke and mirror show. And that's a good thing, because that's going to be the thing that solves it. Also, big business knows that they can only push things so far. What they're trying to do is get all the money and get as much money while the getting's good. But they also know there comes a point in time, a break-even point, when this consumer economy that Americans live under, you've got to have consumers. Everything is driven by the consumer economy. Donald Trump right now is bragging and saying, hey, everybody wants a part of our consumerism. He knows that's important. But what happens when Americans don't have the money to maintain this consumerism, this massive consumerism? You know, he talks about, well, our kids only need 2 pencils or 2 dolls or whatever. Well, it's the fact that our kids want 3 dolls and they get 3 dolls is that consumer economy that he's out there trying to do these trade wars and bargain for. That's the appeal. That they can buy a bunch of cheap dolls. That's the appeal. And so, anyway, they know that there's going to come a point in time, kind of like the Henry Ford thing, right? When he realized that if he paid his workers a better wage, then they could actually afford to buy the product that they were building. And so that similar concept is going to have to happen. But anyway, that's what I think is going to eventually happen later on down the road. Has the pendulum started swinging back the other way? Not even close yet. But I think it will. And I think what's going to end up having to happen is Americans are going to have to continue to see through the smoke and mirror show that's being put on up there in the big dogs right now in Washington and everywhere else, where they get a $400 million palace in the air, but our kids are expected to have 2 baby dolls. In other words, the message is clear. We're going to take this, but we expect you to only have this. All right, guys, I appreciate you guys watching another video, and we'll catch you on the next one.